the forest, something stirred. And it stirred the inquiry as to why man should have been given a face covered with hair, and why he should have been at such pains throughout the centuries to cut it off, and why clean-shaven men should take such a pride in their clean-shavenness, and why the bearded man should be so proud of his beard. Short, thick, long, thin, to the bearded man, the beard of his chin is dearer than the wife of his bosom. Very peculiar things, beards. This type is not so much a beard worn on the face as a face lurking in the middle of a beard. There is the other extreme, which is really intended to be a beard, but is frequently mistaken for a bad shave. There is the beard that has the tang of tarred rope and salt sea, of flying fish and pirates, and a lubberly scum of a drunken crew sent slithering into the scuppers. You can get away with a lot with a beard like that. On the other hand, it isn't very often that you find a man of a horsey type who favors the wearing of hair on the chin, but if he does, well, he follows the fashion. However, if you must have a beard, it's unwise to allow it to become too long and unwieldy. In the rush and bustle of modern life, it may cause you trouble. Slightly continental, but nonetheless effective, is the beard that is parted in the center. This style is particularly favored if the wearer is a member of some distinguished order which he is anxious should not be overlooked. And then again, there are certain advantages in the medium-length beard brushed straight down over the collar. This fashion is both neat and economical.
No tie.
In the dawn of the world, man was so hairy he looked like an ape. Nowadays, of course, he only behaves like one. But with the effluxion of time and the constant rubbing of his vest, he has lost nearly all his hair, and the inability to grow even a few bristles is frequently the cause of heartache in modern youth. This is particularly so for the lad who chooses to make his career in the Navy, increasing as it does the difficulty of asserting one's manhood over a brawny gun layer. The Royal Navy is today one of the few strongholds of the hairy cheek, although there are two schools of thought at sea as to the advantages or otherwise of growing a beard. One obvious advantage is that a beard is a time saver when getting up to go on watch. But the other school maintains that a beard is both inconvenient and uncomfortable in cold and stormy weather. The assumption that the beard generates heat on the principle of the haystack is a fallacy. In Arctic circles, hair on the face is a positive menace. The spray freezes, the beard quickly becomes icebound, and has to be thawed out in the galley. Beards for home use may be worn plain or fancy, but the young man who wishes to gain and hold the affection of a mate should take some steps to counteract the feminine dislike of a face that tickles. A good plan is to divert the attention by offering at the same time some pleasant attraction to the nose. But for the country style, the use of artificial perfume would be considered bad form. It is not our function here to discuss the false beard as distinct from the beard proper, but it is worthwhile recalling that the beard of Santa Claus remains one of the most charming illusions of our childhood. It is a little difficult to say what influence beards may have had on the course of history. Some of the best-known murderers have been bearded, including the Frenchman Landru, who was known as the French Bluebeard. But this proves nothing because Crippen, one of the most notorious of British murderers, wore a moustache only. And of course it's not necessarily criminal to wear a beard. Leaving the infamous for the famous, the striking beard of W.G. Grace added enormously to the majesty of his presence, and it's said to have done a great deal towards frightening the bowler when the doctor was batting. Without his beard, Disraeli might never have seemed so brilliant to Queen Victoria, nor so picturesque to George Arliss. James I wore a beard to hide a weak chin. And as we trace our journey backwards through the pages of history, we see that William Shakespeare was bearded neatly according to the fashion of his time, while Henry VIII is said to have worn a beard to hide scars. Richard I wore a beard to, well, he wore a beard. Going back still farther to the year 400 BC, we find that Socrates was bearded, and we might assume that that was because he had no razor. But there we should be wrong. Shaving was definitely known at that time. Who was the first man to be bothered by his beard and cut it off? It's impossible to say, but the student will remember that Julius Caesar was clean-shaven, even if he remembers nothing else. The ancient Egyptians were shaved by barbers. The word shaving is probably a kind way of describing what really happened. Some authorities suggest that the bristles sprouting from the cheek took one look at the razor and went back in. On ceremonious occasions, the really important Egyptian would wear a false beard, possibly to conceal the fact that the barber had accidentally cut his throat. The Assyrian was a figure of great dignity, with his beard built on the principle of the rope ladder. Having achieved a masterpiece of this nature after several hours of labor, you couldn't be expected to shave it off even if you got it caught in a revolving door. Razors and shaving were known in the Bronze Age, about 3,000 years ago last Friday. Face weapons of this kind were found at Zion Reach on the River Thames. But the razor itself has had various setbacks. As recently as the 17th century, the great Samuel Pepys recorded in his diary,
"To trimming myself, which I have this week done every morning with a pumice stone, and I find it very easy, speedy, and cleanly."
From the earliest times until the present day, the cutting of hair has played its part in religion. In some religions, the shaven face and head may be orthodox. In others, the touch of scissors or razor is absolutely forbidden. But in many parts of the world, the bearded man is an object of veneration. By the time mankind reached the Victorian era, we find that the daily shave was increasing in popularity, especially by those who could afford to keep a valet to do it for them. The generally accepted weapon was a straight razor, sometimes known as a cutthroat. But it wasn't quite so simple as this in other parts of the world. Shaving was practiced in the islands of the Pacific, but owing to the nature of the razor used, they needed plenty of practice. Yes, they used a broken bottle, but the trouble with this kind of razor is that you never know where the edge is. Time moves on lazily in these lovely places, but the passing of 30 years or so found that a sharpened shell had replaced the broken bottle vogue. In many parts of China, shaving was done with the same steel as was used for making horseshoes. Great Britain had a considerable export trade in horseshoes going to China to be made into razors. The horseshoes from Glasgow were greatly in demand because the cobblestones made the steel more finely tempered than the horseshoes from London. Buddha is one of the gods whose face is free from hair, possibly explained by the fact that the Burmese who worship Buddha themselves grow very little hair. What they have is not shaved, but plucked out with tweezers. How silly. My dear, can you imagine us doing it?
He loves me. He loves me not. He loves me. He loves me not.
I thought not. The great Indian Empire is so vast and embraces so many castes and creeds that it is unwise to be too precise. But the normal shave is carried out by a barber, with the next gentleman looking on. In some countries, it's customary to have a manicure at the same time, but in many parts of India, it's different. The Danes used to be great supporters of the beard, but it was considered warmer to wear it inside the underclothes. It's to be presumed that the Danes, as a race, are not ticklish. In In the country districts of Holland, it was usual to visit the barber for a shave. But the ancient custom there would render it unnecessary for the client to make funny faces in order to stretch that awkward bit round the mouth. It could be done much better with a dessert spoon. This one's very awkward. Yes, there's not much doubt that this was the best method so far. But the manservant was the luxury of the favoured few. In the poorer districts, even of the big cities, the barber's shop of bygone days was often villainously dirty and dangerous, as you will see if you peep inside the theatre and take a look at Britain's most fruity drama.
Good evening. Captain Mark Ingersley. Welcome, sir. Thrice welcome to my shop. Come, sir, come. The chair is ready. There shall be no waiting.
I did not come for a shave, sir. I came merely to inquire if you could furnish me with the address of my future father-in-law, Mr. Jasper Oakley.
With pleasure, sir, with pleasure. But surely his beautiful daughter, Joanna, would prefer a smooth cheek for her kisses?
All right, full sail ahead.
Good, good. Tobias, take the captain's hat and coat. Everyone that enters Sweeney Todd's shop finds welcome upon the mat. Sit-y down, sir. Sit-y down, and I'll soon polish you off. 'Tis said you have returned home a rich man, sir.
'Tis truly said, then.
With pearls worth £20,000, presented to you by one of your passengers for saving her from the hands of the pirates.
I value the honor more than the gift.
Quite, sir, quite. But is it not dangerous, sir, to carry so much wealth about with you in that bag?
And who said it was in the bag?
Oh, no one, sir, no one. I just guessed that by the care with which you've gone.
'Tis true, then. And I'm all impatience to get it to Joanna.
Oh, so it's all in the bag. Oh, I'll soon polish him off. Come here, Tobias, come here. Here's a penny for you, Tobias. Go and buy yourself one of Mrs. Lovett's pies and make it last year to Charing Cross Green and back. Thank you, sir.
Why do you lock the door?
It grows late, sir, and I want no more customers this night.
Well, make haste, man, make haste.
It grows darker in these days. I think I'd better light the lamp. But first of all, I'll just let down the blind. You're not afraid, I hope, sir, of sitting in the dark.
Why should I be?
Many of my customers are afraid when I pull down the blind.
Do you do it for many of them?
No, sir, no. The lamp is just behind the door yonder. I'll go and get it. Now the pearls are mine. That's the way to polish them off.
Quite. But to return to Victorian days and proper shaving, the chief difficulty was in keeping the razor really sharp. There's a considerable art in stropping the fine edge so that it becomes sharper instead of blunter. And even so, at frequent intervals, the razor has to be taken to a professional to be ground and set. So the Victorian was wise if he kept at least 2 razors.
Ermentrude,
Yes, Augustus?
where is my other razor, my angel?
I have it here, dearest. Do you want it?
Naturally.
Here it is, Augustus.
Oh, thank you, Ermentrude. What was it doing in the bedroom?
Oh, I was just opening a parcel from Cousin Agatha in Eastbourne.
Oh! Confounded woman!
And so, of course, she fainted. It was the only thing to do. And the dark shadow of their first quarrel fell upon her subconscious mind. But they were very much in love and lived happily ever after for the next 24 hours. But in this matter of razors, the grievance was sometimes on the side of the wife.
Gussie, my love.
Oh, what is it, Ermentrude?
Don't wipe your razors on my towels, do you, my sweet?
No, of course not. You silly little squirrel.
Then how do you account for this?
The more particular male would go to the greatest trouble to ensure a good shave every day of the week. having each razor labeled and refusing under all circumstances to shave with any razor but the right one for the right day. But accidents did happen even in the best regulated Victorian families, and this accident gave the master a most irregular appearance. Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Yes, all over the civilized world men were bothered by beards, but one man decided to do something about it. He was bothered, but he possessed an inventive brain. He had already invented and designed several little gadgets, though none of them had had any particular success. And now he was continually puzzling his brain to think of some way to make this wretched shaving business easier and more pleasant. And as his name happened to be King Camp Gillette, it's merely a matter of history that one morning, quite suddenly, his greatest invention appeared in his mind's eye, almost complete in every detail. The invention of a lifetime. At one stroke, he would banish his 20 minutes of purgatory per day and make his fortune. A razor which was merely a holder for a blade, and the blade so cheap that everybody could afford to use it until it lost its keen edge, and then throw it away and buy another.
I've got it.
He made the razor he had visualized without much difficulty. That part of it was easy. It all turned out exactly as he had seen it in that first sudden flash of invention in the bathroom. But when he got down to making the blade for it, that was when he bumped into a real problem. He made the blade itself all right, that was simple, and he got an edge on it. But the edge of a good razor blade has to be the keenest thing in the world, finer than a pinpoint, much finer, sharper even than a surgeon's scalpel. And putting a thin blade into an ordinary furnace didn't do much to the edge, but it did a lot to the rest of it. He worked night and day, but the solution of his problem always escaped him. He saw his discovery in danger of taking its dismal place among the ranks of the mitre thief. But he never lost faith. He knew he was right. And presently fortune began to smile once more when he was introduced to a man named William Nickerson. Nickerson was undoubtedly an engineer of genius, and he was able to design and devise the machinery which would do the job. The job of putting a razor edge on a piece of steel no thicker than paper. The job that every engineer previously had said could never be done. They made a number of blades and they made a number of razors in this first factory, but they didn't sell many. Nobody was interested in this new invention. And in the course of the early months and years, there were many black days when the whole enterprise seemed to be doomed to suffer an inglorious end. The end that has pulled down so many pioneers, so many men with ideas for the future. The end of complete failure from just plain lack of enough money to carry on. But at last they found someone who tried the razor and agreed to back it. And with his money, a company was formed and production began in earnest. But it was one thing to invent and manufacture a new device for shaving, and something entirely different to persuade the conservative males of the human race to change the habit of generations. Anything new was looked on with suspicion at the beginning of the 20th century.
You'll cut yourself.
I know I will. I always do.
But why? Why?
I don't know why. I just do. There. Now I've done it.
Oh, well, I think that's very foolish. Don't you think it's very foolish? Now, don't get blood on that nice clean vest of yours. I said, don't you think it's very foolish, Mr. Robinson?
Well, I'm sure somebody must agree with me. Don't you think it's foolish? He's asleep.
Hi.
I feel ill.
Well, I must say, you don't look any too healthy from here. Not at all healthy. Now, what were we talking about? Oh, yes, your face. I should put a bit of plaster on it if I were you. Now, I'll tell you why it is, that although I've traveled thousands of miles by boat and train, I never cut myself. You use the old-fashioned cutthroat razor, and I don't.
Don't you?
I didn't know there was anything else.
Oh, yes, there is. There's a new invention. And I'll show it to you. Ah, there it is. The dear little thing.
I feel ill.
Try not to think about it. You should have eaten a good hearty meal last night before you started, you know. There you are.
What is it?
It's my little safety razor. And believe me, in a year or two, nobody will ever use anything else. It's as safe as a cross-eyed old maid. Let me have it. Zip, 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 zip. Done. And what a shave.
Are you trying to sell him one?
Well, as a matter of fact, by a peculiar coincidence, I do happen to have one or two. They're the first on the market, and the finest value that money can buy. I feel sure.
I feel ill. I feel terrible.
Oh. Whoa, steady, boy. Hold your horses. Steady, man.
The prizes this week will be as follows. First prize, 10 national savings certificates. Second prize...
In the course of some 40 years, the prejudice of mankind against a new idea for shaving was overcome, and thousands of men and women came to be employed in this new industry. From the few odd strips of steel used in the first experiments, the quantity rose to hundreds of tons, which came in big coils to pass through the various processes of manufacture on a variety of complicated machines. First of all, the perforating, the punching of the slot which keeps the blade accurately fixed on the razor. Those machines, first designed by William Nickerson, were mechanical marvels in their day, but compared with this modern equipment, they are like the motor cars of the early 1900s. However, there is one disadvantage in modern factory equipment, and that is that it's much less exciting to look at. You could see the old-fashioned machines getting on with the job. These moderns are all enclosed. They do their work where you can't see it, like civil servants. This particular machine contains 3 furnaces. In the first, the steel is hardened by heating and quick cooling. In the second furnace, it is tempered. And in the third, the ends of the blade are softened to make them pliable. Having passed successfully through what must have been a harrowing experience, the unfortunate piece of steel is then tested for hardness, and this is done with a pointed diamond. Interesting piece of work, don't you think? After this, the steel is printed with the manufacturer's name and trademark before going into another room which looks beautiful and smells awful. Here it gets a coating of lacquer to protect it from rust and keep it hygienic. At this point, several of the coils are joined together, each new big drum holding about 90,000 blades, roughly 2.5 miles in length. And after this comes the really tricky part, the business of putting on the edge, which, after all, is the important part of the blade because it's the bit that comes into contact with your whiskers. One of the factors which ensure the absolute uniformity of the blades is the system of performing all these operations on the steel while it is still in the form of a strip. This is the invention of one of the pioneers of the safety razor, H.J. Geisman, and it's vastly superior to the old method of working on separate blades. This machine has been grinding the edge, honing it, and giving it its final stropping, making the edge the sharpest cutting agent in the world, sharper than a serpent's tooth and ungrateful children. Finally, the strip is cut up into individual blades, and the first of the many edge inspections is carried out. You might imagine that since the whole blade is so thin, putting on the edge is just a matter of shaving off a little bit more at the sides, but there's more in it than that. Actually, what happens is that what is called the 3-facet edge is built up on this hair-breadth thickness of steel to give it strong shoulders, to give it strength and courage as it crashes through the morning undergrowth on your chin. Looking into the microscope, which magnifies to 100 times the actual size, you can see the 3 different facets. The rough bottom part where it has been ground, the finer grain middle section where it has been honed, and the final result at the top, the stropped edge. That's the bit that makes all the difference between a good shave and a bad one. How many promising romances have been ruined because the boy had a bad shave? When they first fell in love, he was careful to keep his chin beautifully shaved, so that the memory of her first kiss held all the velvet smoothness of a wonderful vintage wine. but later on he grew careless. And how can a girl stay in love when every time she kisses her sweetheart, it reminds her of the time she fell off her bicycle and hit her face on the gravel? Back in the factory, the blades are traveling by overhead conveyor to another department where one more of the many inspections is carried out. This is where the faulty blades are ejected. After this, they will be greased to protect the edge from rust. And then they're ready for the wrapping department where another machine helps them into their jackets. This particular job is even cleverer than it looks. A spot of grease is stuck onto each corner of the blade to keep the edge away from the fold of the wrapper. The edge is so delicate that even a slight touch against the paper would damage it and ruin your morning shave. In case you don't believe that, this is an instrument that shows just how much the blade can be damaged by cutting a piece of paper. The original blade was perfect, and the instrument has recorded the edge as a straight line, but the result of the cutting of the paper is shown by the pen which is following the new edge of the blade. The pen follows a tiny spot of light, invisible to the camera, and as you can see, the blade now has a nasty jag on it. The result is greatly magnified, of course. Enormous care is taken to improve the edge of the blade for your morning shave. A big research department is finding out new facts every day, learning each new week that there's always room for improving a process which had seemed perfect the week before. The hairs on your face are not round, as you may have thought, but maybe oval or even almost rectangular. Don't they look horrible? And the research department spares no expense or human suffering to achieve perfection. The head of the department has to be a man of great determination and resource, and has to win the confidence of his staff.
Morning.
Good morning. I say, Bob, I'm starting a new series of experiments on the growth of the beard. Now, would you mind if I x-rayed your whiskers in the course of science?
Not likely. You're not experimenting on me.
And so he has to do it himself. Some idea of the seriousness of the problem can be gathered from the fact that on the face of the average man, the shavable area is roughly 48 square inches. And on this area, the explorer will discover something like 25,000 hairs, all growing. In Great Britain alone, the great open spaces of the hair-growing faces add up to approximately 110 acres. What a pity faces don't grow something useful, like wheat. So if you're lucky enough to get hold of a razor blade, take care of it. There's not much point in this machine going to a lot of trouble to preserve the edge if you're going to mess it up when you've bought it. This seems to be an influential client being shown round. Don't look now, but I think they're going to give him one. But don't just stuff it in your pocket as if it were an old diamond ring or something. Oh dear no. If you're wise, you'll put it away carefully in a diary or a cigarette case. Something to keep it flat. Otherwise your beard may get the better of it. This one factory has a capacity of 15 million blades a week. How is it then that the first few years of the Second World War saw supplies dwindling so rapidly? And by the 5th year, the scarcity of razor blades had become a rather bitter joke. The answer is that the factory turned over to war production and the output of blades was cut to 5 million a week, and 40% of those went to the forces. In the First World War, the army issue was a straight razor. In the Second, it was a safety. And now the war is won. Razor blades are considered by the British government to be one of the most important of our exports because they bring in such a high proportion of much-needed foreign exchange. Good working conditions and good relations between employers and staff are as vital to our security now as planes and guns were in wartime. Maximum output and maximum export are the ends we must keep on driving for if we are to keep our place in the family of nations. Our goods must be on sale and in use in the farthest corners of the globe. In the farthest corners of the globe, the benefits of our civilization and science must be available. After all, if you've got the right implements, there's no reason why you shouldn't have just as good a shave in the outposts of empire as you would in the sequestered loveliness of your Mayfair flat, where everything is to hand, just where you want it, where everything runs with the efficiency and smoothness that money, science, ingenuity, and influence can command. It's a lovely morning this morning. It's good to be alive.
Move for the wings of the dove. Oh, for the wings of a dove.
We now come to the third act of our short play, The Stock Market Scandal.
I tell you, Harding, we'll clean up a fortune. Nobody wants the stock at present, but if I buy 10,000, it'll go up.
And what happens then?
Then I catch the mugs, it's done every day, sell out, and down it comes. Then I buy again, and it goes up again. So it does. Then I sell when the market's steady, then I wait a bit, and it comes down again. And the next time I buy, it goes up and I hang on.
Well, frankly, George, I don't like it. It may be all right, but it's not my line of country at all. I seem to be taking all the risk. You haven't got any money, and I don't care about getting tied up like this.
Oh, nonsense. You're not getting cold feet, are you?
Well, I don't know about cold feet. It looks more like being in hot water.
Well, of course, if you won't take a risk.
I don't like the feeling of having the sword of Damocles hanging over my head.
Rubbish, my dear fellow, rubbish. If you never take a chance, you're not going to get anywhere. Supposing it is a little bit shady, what of it? We make a fortune.
Well, I'll tell you this. If I lose my first 200, I shall cut my loss.
You will?
Yes, cut it.
No, don't cut it. It's too early for that.
Well, I don't like it. If there's another scandal around your name, you'll be finished. You're playing with fire, George. You're playing with fire.
Well, if that's the way you feel, you'd better keep out of it. Personally, I think it's worth the risk, even if we do drop a packet.
What do you mean, we drop a packet? It's my money.
Yes, but it's my idea, and good ideas are even scarcer than money.
Oh, very well, then. If your mind's made up, I suppose I'd better come in with you.
Splendid. Old Canny Harding is about to take the plunge.
Better be canny than sorry. You fish in troubled waters, old man. Still, I won't let you down. When I was a youngster, I did a good deal of boxing, and it taught me not to throw in the towel.
That's the spirit. That sounds very much more like it. There's more in that than you think.
All the same, I wish I had your nerve, George. I shan't get much peace while this is on.
Oh, just relax. Here, have a cigarette. Any time you feel it's getting you down, well, you can always come along to me and blow off steam.
Did you whistle, sir?
I wish for a shave.
Very good, sir.
Well, I'll tell you what. 10,000 is too much, but you can count on me up to 4,000. But if I lose that, I'm going to cut my loss.
Cut it?
Yes, cut it.
So you're going to chuck up the sponge, are you?
Yes, I am. And as far as I'm concerned, George, you can go and drown yourself.
For the wings of a